comes back to energy. So in terms of me wanting to change the world for the better, if I'm going to start a movement or get involved, energy is that is the place to start. And the other thing was, given my training and what I think I'm good at, I thought the ideas in the field of energy were horrible, and I thought I could help. So, and people in the field I've found are very open and stuff, and they're very interested in hearing their philosophy question. But just to give you a couple of terms that I think are all wrong and should be rethought: sustainability, green, renewable energy. Trying to think what else. Just I think the way people think about the way environment is used. I think the way we're taught to think about our relationship to environment is very inverted. So I think environment should be thought of in a human way. It should be thought of, how do we maximize how great a world we live in for human beings? So if we care about natural beauty, it's because it benefits humans. But unfortunately, environment has been turned into this god that we're supposed to serve. So it's what have you done for the environment today? There's no the environment. There's just our environment, or there's the environment of other animals. And really the environmental movement is way, way too focused on the environment of all the other creatures and not nearly enough on the human environment, which is why they're so opposed to practical energy, because that kind of energy is changing the environment for all the other species. But for us, it's amazing. Yes?
Well, the green movement or the environmental movement oftentimes gives you ideas of how to reduce your carbon footprint and things like that, and things you can do around the house, like conserving on water and things like that. So from your viewpoint, are there things that we can do, or are there things that we should do to help the energy crisis?
Well, I would take those as two different questions. So let me deal with both. So there's this whole issue of kind of there's this little, it's not a cottage industry because it's massive, but this whole life focus that we are now supposed to have of how do we sort through our trash, and do I recycle, and did I bring a special bag to the grocery store or not? And it might be this is all a gigantic waste of time and a farce. And it's not because at the margin you can't say one is better than the other, but the whole implication is it's missing the whole huge issue. So we have 1.5 billion people in the world with no electricity. If you think about what that means for an environment, that means that they are surrounded in filth. That means they have indoor air pollution, again, burning wood, burning dung. It means that they can't have a modern industrialized way of life. It means it's extremely hard for them to get anything. It's hard for them to get water. Their water is full of parasites. So the idea that we regard ourselves as environmentally righteous by buying a special bag, I think is just a complete, I don't even know what to say about it. And part of it is, though, it's this idea that any impact is bad. So let me give you what I call my philosophy of guilt-free garbage. Garbage is one of the greatest achievements in the world. It is great. So I'm going to deliberately throw this in the trash later, unless it is illegal here. Then I will not, because I don't want to go to jail. But garbage is a great thing. I mean, it is through most of history, you have to live with your waste. The achievement of capitalism is twofold. It has made us wealthy enough where we can figure out how to transport our waste in a place away from us, but also it's given us the ability, on my latest radio show, if you guys go to capitalism.com, you can listen to it, my guest talks about how throughout the history we've made wealth out of waste, and which is often called recycling, but it's recycling. Do you know what industry invented recycling? Give someone $10 if they can guess.
Agriculture, mining industry.
You guys are too close. Yes?
Steel?
Close. Oil. And it was because Rockefeller and other people saw that when they took a barrel of oil, you can only use a certain amount for gasoline, a certain amount for kerosene, and they wanted a way, they had all this other stuff, and they tried to think, we've got so much volume, what can we do? And now, what happened to that waste? Well, petroleum products, which are products made from oil, let's do a conservative estimate. Petroleum products are basically oil turns out to be the most versatile material in the world for making stuff out of. So basically everything in this room that you cannot tell what it's made of is going to be made of oil. So the coating, all coatings basically are petroleum based. The coating on this is made of oil. The ink on my paper is made by oil. My pen is made of oil. Anyone who's wearing hair product, it's made of oil. The frames on your glasses are made of oil. The buttons on your shirt, the soles of your shoes, the laces on your shoes, the fertilizer that grew your clothes is either oil or natural gas. The thing that transported fuel. This is what capitalism did with waste. So this idea that, and then okay, what if we don't have a way of doing it? Well, it's actually really good with bottles and stuff. The best way to deal with plastic bottles, to my knowledge, is to burn them. You can actually burn them very, very cleanly. But we have this whole idea that it's wrong, somehow immoral for us to be creating stuff and then throwing it away. And that is an anti-human premise. It's viewing environment as some sort of god that we don't have the right to violate. But in reality, here's what goes on with a plastic bottle. This is why I feel guiltless about it. This thing has been very useful. I could not have gone through the talk without this bottle. This bottle was just a little tiny piece of oil under the ground, lying, doing absolutely nothing. Okay, worst case scenario, if we can't figure out how to use it, after I'm done with it, it's going to be some oil on the ground doing nothing in a slightly more attractive form. That's it. So we have nothing, and then in the middle we have a benefit. So how is that bad? Is that worse than it sitting in the ground forever doing nothing? No, it's good. So consumption is environmentally beneficial because you are improving your environment. So again, and just the whole recycling thing is, I just learned that in Orange County where I live, our whole recycling program is to just dump a bunch of stuff in bins and then send it to China. That's our whole recycling system, where they probably burn it, which is good. Yes?
Are you really stupid or just pure evil?
That's a legitimate question.
Just curious, because I actually know people, who don't actually live with electricity, and, I think it's kind of Eurocentric to think that we have to force them into using electricity or, force indigenous people off the land so we can take their resources to fund this capitalist economy based on fossil fuels that are non-renewable on a finite planet. And I think it's both immoral and stupid for you to be here saying this to us. You're sickening.
So is the reason you came an hour late because you're keeping time by the sun instead of a digital watch?
I read about you, dude, but I was actually down with someone who's dealing with mountaintop removal in West Virginia right now, whose cancer rates have risen beyond measure in the region because of water pollution from coal extraction. All right, and for you to come here and do this is sickening.
Okay, you weren't at the talk.
I don't care. We read about you online, man. We can learn more.
I have no answer to that.
From your own website.
So let's go from. So my answer to am I evil is no, and not stupid either in my estimation. You could argue that more. So just give me one thing that you regard as an incontrovertible evil about capitalism that no one could possibly believe, and then I'll shut that down, and then hopefully you'll be happy.
Because it cannot be operated without coercion. People didn't voluntarily just join capitalism. They were forced to it by pushing them off of the land. You can look it up in history, man. The transition from feudalism to capitalism was brought about by the state pushing people off of the land by privatizing it. Before, in serfdom, it was held in common. It was commonly owned land. The state pushed them off.
Your argument against me is that I believe that we should have gotten out of the Middle Ages and into the modern era.
No, that's not really what I'm saying, but I'm saying...
But that's what feudalism is.
I'm not saying feudalism is good either. There's problems there. I'm just saying that if capitalism is so great, if this awesome economic system that... Why are people being forced into it? Why are people being forced into
it. Okay, so...
Why are traditional cultures that have sustainable ways of living without the use of
I got it.
fuels and energies, why...
Okay, you only get 30 fallacies at a time. Especially if you didn't come to the talk. What do I want to say about all of this? Let's talk about the issue of, in terms of coercion, it's a worthwhile point. Capitalism is the only system that formally, so capitalism means, I don't know if you know what it is, but capitalism, like by definition, is a system based on individual rights, including property rights, where all property is privately owned. So it is the only system in history where you actually own your life and the products of your life. So it is the ultimate liberator. I mean, to deal with feudalism, where you've got lords and vassals and people starving, and I can't even speak to how evil that is as an ideal compared to capitalism, but capitalism is the thing that doubled the human life expectancy and that made a level of human happiness possible for the masses that's completely unequal in any other society, precisely because of this idea that your life belongs to you and your property belongs to you. And those two go together. They're essential to having liberty. But let's deal with the issue of sustainability, since you guys get bombarded with that issue, and it's a good issue to understand how capitalism works with resources. So the basic argument is, how can you support X because we're going to run out of oil, coal, iron, whatever, fill in the blank. And it's good, as I said with other things, to look at what is the historical record with this. Because it has a certain intuitive plausibility that, yeah, aren't there only a certain number of resources in the world, and aren't we kind of running out? Aren't we using them, and aren't we going to run out at some point? But then if we look at the facts, what we see is that the number of resources that we have accessible to us are on a